Republican Party was pushing for and the apprehension methods that were scary. But as soon as Joe Biden took over the reins, they were like, oh, they're is letting in. And at the time I said, if the Biden administration doesn't actively communicate the popular mandate that they got from the election that they just won, okay, once in office, if they don't actively communicate the humanity of migrants, the Republicans are going to dominate the conversation and just lie about it. And that's precisely what they did for 4 years. They kept hitting that button over and over again. It's not an accident. Every time there is anytime there is a midterm election, that's suspiciously there are caravans about. Okay? Caravans, they're coming. You think there's only caravans coming every time an election is about to happen? Doesn't that kind of strike you as odd? It's the one thing that the Republicans love talking about all the time is that migrants are coming in and they're coming here to do crimes. They're coming here to do jobs, but also simultaneously steal your welfare and also simultaneously steal
fucking shit, brother.
Properties that you could rent. Okay?
Sí, señor. Ah, no, es mejor que yo tengo. Sigue siendo mejor que yo tengo.
So, if I can figure this out, and I'm some random Twitch streamer, how can the Democratic Party not recognize that this is what was going to happen? How? That's bad politics, and it should not be rewarded. Republicans never stop. Republicans never, ever stop doing propaganda year round. They never stop campaigning. Okay? Democrats, on the other hand, barely do a decent job of campaigning to begin with. They don't. They're actually bad at campaigning. And they only do it every 4 years or every 2 years. It's very frustrating. Bro, Dems are the worst at what you describe? What do you mean? When MSNBC is saying it, or whenever, you know, the Associated Press is covering it in that way, they're doing a disservice. They truly have a left-wing point of view in the way that, like, so many imply. Then they have to recognize that simply offering contentious coverage. So, House GOP leaders...
¿Qué se ríen ustedes, manga de putos?
Sorry, as Democrats ready...
Qué bien estás acá, Con las gafitas ya y todo. ¿Y el Dim no juega ya más a esto?
Sí, no, el Dim no
se retiró, ¿no?
Sí, ya tiene sexo en vez de jugar.
Ah, es verdad.
Pero sí tiene sexo. ¿Para qué quiere tener sexo? Soy un personaje nivel 57.
Sí, ¿no? Es mucho eso. ¿Y la peña buena en qué nivel está?
Y mira, cuando lo más dice que tiene un personaje ese solamente 30 niveles más grande que él.
Sí, pero seguro que él no juega.
Pero él no jugó, se descubrió la verdad.
Claro, ¿cómo va a estar jugando más?
No, y sabes, se descubrió la verdad que Tesla no es, o sea, le adjudican la empresa a él, pero, o sea, es de él, pero el chaval nunca hizo una puta fórmula, nada, o sea, él no hace nada, ¿sí? Pone plata nomás. Tipo, junta equipos, que está re bien. De la forma también hacer negocio, ¿no? Pero en el mundo gamer no puedes adjudicarte yo soy el mejor y después al final son una farsa, porque el mundo gamer...
When the exact opposite is true, that undocumented and documented migrants are responsible for significantly less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens are. Okay? And yet, if you ask the average American, they literally think undocumented migrants are doing incredible amounts of crimes. This is a crisis of misinformation, and the higher level and burn harder. The top.
Well then. Are you gonna?
Cómo molaba cuando saltaban a la grada la gente, ¿eh? Cuando terminaban las carreras, chaval. ¿Eh?
Que hay algún vídeo por ahí viejo que dices, por esto sí, o sea...
Ah, ¿en la Fórmula 1? Hay un video cuando gana el Schumacher, boludo. La gente se quiere morir, man. Unos botines alcachonados. ¿Qué es eso?
¿De esto? No sé. ¿Oh?
¿Quién habla ahí?
¿Eh?
¿Quién está hablando ahí?
Nadie.
Ah.
A ver.
¿Qué, un congreso o algo?
Un científico.
Ah, es cuando le ponen el premio Nobel a una mina, ¿no?
No sé.
Mierda, cómo me... Tun, tun, tun. Tun, tun, tun. Turu, tu, turu, turu. Wow. ¿Quién es ese loco que hace esa historia?
¿Quién?
Ah, ¿las retuitea? ¿Las comparte?
¿Quién? ¿De qué está hablando?
¿De quién es?
Un colega.
Ah, un colega, pero que no es su vida.
¿Sí?
Ah,
Eso, o sea, lo grabó con el móvil.
él sale joda y patina. Qué buena vida. Qué buena vida que tiene.
Sale de joda y patina, dice, chaval. Vos ahí de joda y esquiás, cabrón.
Sí, sí, sí. Pero claro, es difícil encontrar gente tan cool como nosotros.
Ajá. Olvídate.
Jurado.
Ah, cigüeña.
Marco Polo.
Joe, current examples of immigrants that are incredibly important to the American agribusiness or construction or numerous other sectors where migrants are basically working, both documented and undocumented migrants are basically working away from
Sí, metete a jugar, culiao.
but they're still working to keep this entire thing together.
On every day. It's also the kind of work that only immigrants, by and large, are willing to do. There are towns like Cactus, Texas, all over the country. And with President Donald Trump promising to carry out mass deportations, a sense of
¿Qué hablas, Mendocina? ¿Qué hablas?
uncertainty looms over these streets. What are you hearing
Florcy.
specifically from people?
Florcy.
They're scared. They don't know
¿Qué
if
quieren,
they're
boludo?
gonna be able to stay here. You know, a
Escucha,
lot of them have been here for
escucha, Rick. Yo voy a tratar de conseguir por mi lado.
lives here, their kids are here, when they know it's here.
Elizabeth Oliveros grew up in Cactus, the daughter of immigrants who became citizens and earned their living working in the city's meat processing plant.
Deportado, deportado. Mexicano se te acabó. Ahora somos los otros países que nos quedamos en este.
It'd be quite empty. I think there's a lot of people here that don't have money, that keep a lot of the businesses, the small businesses around here running.
México te llama.
Immigrants do that.
Vuelve a tu país.
That's harder being some of the immigrants.
A trabajar para esos mexas. Ricachones. Que son todos lo mismo. Uy, uy, qué éxito, qué éxito.
Disfrútalo.
Qué éxito. ¿Qué te va? Ahí te lo bajo. Ahí te lo bajo.
Oye, la delfina anda pajareando por ahí, ¿eh?
¿Quién es Delfina?
¿Cómo que quiere delfina? No te hagas
¿Qué anda haciendo?
anda pajareando por ahí, ya la he visto yo.
¿Pajareando? ¿Qué es eso?
Pajareando, ¿qué es paja? ¿Tú qué crees que es?
¿Haciendo paja?
Eso no sé también, pero te puedo preguntar.
Okay?
Anda por ahí con uno.
You cut back with austerity measure. You cut back with austerity measures, the social safety nets that
Yo tengo del prepara.
throughout their entire lives. Okay? You remove all
Decile, mira.
that they can have a better future, and one that the previous generation.
La historia con 4.
Okay.
Y sí, boludo, sí.
Everything.
Menos mal.
Everything starts sucking.
No, boludo.
Basically.
¿Sabes qué, hermano?
The public transit is no longer as good because it's underfunded. Public education is no longer good
No voy a hacer
because it's
problema de nada.
underfunded. Okay? The
Yo no me
reason
esfuerzo.
why a lot of the governments in Western liberal capitalist nations, in
Yo no ando atrás de la chica.
Europe, for example, do this, is because they want to implement privatization measures.
Que me perdone.
Just privatize it overnight.
Que me perdone, pero yo no ando atrás de las chicas.
So the way to do that is a long and convoluted, sometimes complicated process of crippling the structures that exist and then presenting privatization as the only option going forward, and then presenting it as a tax cut as well. This is the Reagan-style neoliberalism that took place in the United States of America and obviously by Thatcher in the UK as well.
Nazis a la calle! Nazis a la calle!
The most supposedly resilient social democratic governments in even Nordic nations now. Okay? It's never about migrants coming in, and it's almost always about the fact that people's material conditions are getting worse and they're angry, and right-wing parties will often redirect that anger, just like we do here in the United States, at marginalized people, at people that have less than them, the poor, homeless, the infirm, but also, of course, in Europe, refugees. This is virtually a universal.
Tengan todos miedo.
Constantly engage in cost-cutting initiatives and then justify tax cuts that way, starving the beast, if you will. All of the social safety nets are crippled. They no longer can cover the growing population that has, and then an aging population, especially in developed nations that have even more needs, right? And in that process, when people get angry, use that anger and resentment to further beef up your support by claiming that the anger should be directed back at the newcomers that don't look like you, that might not even speak your language, that are scary and dangerous, that actually are doing crimes all the time. Okay? And that's precisely what has happened in many other parts of Western Europe especially, and that's what's happening in America as well. Look no further than the media story cycle that took place in Springfield, Ohio. This is a direct example of what happened. Like, it was so perfectly captured in that little sliver of time, right? Springfield, Ohio, a town that has been completely gutted by neoliberalism, manufacturing moved away, people are becoming poorer and poorer, the exact same issues that American workers face anywhere around the country, they're certainly facing in Springfield, Ohio. Manufacturing still has needs, right? The manufacturing and the jobs that still exist need working hands, okay? Haitians that now have temporary protected status will go to Springfield, Ohio. Once a couple Haitians with temporary protected status go there, they're like, oh, there's a lot of jobs here. So a bunch more come, okay? They start working and revitalizing the economy of the town, just like undocumented and documented migrants had done in places like Hazleton in Pennsylvania, completely revitalizing the town's economy, okay? But the people that already were there, the people that already lived there, are angry and resentful. They feel like these guys cut the line. They feel like they're getting a better shake. They feel like they're getting a better a deal than they did, that the government has undermined them. If you listen to the people in Springfield, Ohio, so much of the anger and frustration was born out of their social safety nets withering away, perishing, and them thinking that those social safety nets went away And they no longer get the same service from like the welfare.
Monsters that die while infected with skeletal snipers do
reasonable manner because there's too many Haitians in line in front of them, right? The real problem in that situation is that Springfield, Ohio, did not have their needs met. Basically,
monsters
they didn't
that
have
die while
enough
infected with
finances to make up for the
pain offering will impale one of
into the offices.
Flammability.
So if you don't solve that problem, a competent government is supposed to solve that problem. They're supposed to say, okay, we need more translators, for example. We need to figure out what will make this process more efficient so people don't wait in fucking line all day, every day to get their welfare check, right? But they didn't do that because they never do that. The American government never does that, okay? So the people are left thinking these scary foreigners who are black that came into this town are actually taking not only the jobs that I could have been doing, but also on top of that, they're taking away my welfare. All right? There in America, though, speak English. It's so funny to say this about Haitian people who also do have the capacity to speak English, but on top of that, they literally speak more languages than you, dumb fuck. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about,
That's
dumb
so
fuck?
funny to be like, oh, you came to America to speak English. These guys are refugees with temporary protected status coming in from a country that we have destroyed, by the way, okay, actively. And many Republicans remember that we actively destroyed this country because Hillary Clinton played a role in the destruction of Haiti, at least in contemporary Haitian history. And that's precisely the reason why they used to love talking about how the Democrats ruined Haiti. Hillary Clinton ruined Haiti. But they forgot about that when the Haitians are eating, cats and dog stuff was popping off. Anyway, Haitians do usually know both French and English, exactly. So, my point is, Springfield, Ohio was a perfect example of people that recognized that their material conditions were worse, that their social safety nets were not expanding and keeping up with the needs of the population that was getting poorer and poorer. And then they just redirected that anger and frustration to people that were coming into the town. That's it. That's a great example. Now, am I silly enough to suggest that if all of these people's needs were met, that there would be no racism? Of course not. There would still be plenty of people who are like, I still don't want black people in my neighborhood, okay? Of course. But a big chunk of the population would not be so angry and so resentful about their own circumstances that they would also jump on the hatred train. That's it. Politics is about managing, politics is in many instances about managing the broadest subsect of society and their attitudes, okay? And people are very malleable. You can convince people that their neighbors are not evil, but in order to do so, you have to also make sure that their needs are met.
That most residents, regardless of their immigration status, didn't want to speak with us on camera. Didn't want to talk about President Trump's deportation dreams.
I don't like politics. I don't like it.
The fear among many in this town and other agricultural communities across the country is that vital food production would be paralyzed and communities torn apart. The meat processing plant here said it only hires people authorized to work. Under different management in 2006, the plant was raided by immigration authorities. About 300 people suspected of identity theft or being in the country illegally were detained, many of them deported. Elizabeth Oliveros remembers the day clearly.
I was in elementary school, and I remember they had to keep us because they didn't know how many of us, our parents were gone, and a lot of my friends.
Hatred is like alcohol. It makes you feel better temporarily, but it doesn't improve your situation. It enables you to do horrible things, and it's more socially acceptable when you do it as a group instead of alone. That's a cool quote.
their parents were gone. They got reports.
9. The children at Cactus Elementary are mostly oblivious to the political storms brewing outside.
Yeah, a lot of those companies self-report themselves to ICE, by the way. At least, the famous case that I always bring up is the Purdue Chicken Factory. The Purdue Chicken Factory that had a lot of issues with sexual harassment on the assembly line, and were refusing to engage with back pay. So they were basically stealing from the already hyper-exploited undocumented migrants that they had brought to that area. Okay? Knowing full well that they were undocumented migrants, like they actively hired them. Okay? And then when it became too problematic that these workers were actually looking for, their wages to be paid back to them, the company realized that calling ICE on its own facility and then paying a minor penalty for hiring undocumented migrants would be far better than simply paying the undocumented migrants what they actually had earned. So they did that. They called ICE and they got a slap on the wrist for hiring undocumented migrants, as is the law. And then they turned around and went back to the same neighborhoods to hire a new crop of undocumented migrants. And they put them directly in the same trailer parks that they had set up. This is a part of the business strategy in the United States of America. Okay?
These school walls. Principal TJ Funderburg is bracing for whatever comes next.
It's just the unknown that scares me to death.
He says as many as half the kids in the school could have undocumented family members. These are the kinds of places where the reality of mass deportations could play out.
To the people who are going to be making these decisions about deportations, whether it's mass deportation.
If you can find the Fast Food Nation Richard Linklater cycle, that would be fantastic. If there's like a brief cycle that we can use as a summarization of that.
Just broad or targeted. What's your message to them?
Just,
I gotta pee.
Come talk to me. Come meet these kids. I know there has to be rules, there has to be checks, there has to be balances, but it can't just be paper. This community of people that have come together, that are here now from all these different countries, all these different places, we can do amazing things.
We're going to get more now on President Trump's latest moves. There are many, and we turn to our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, for more on that. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Rebecca. Well, President Trump is moving swiftly and aggressively to enact his agenda, including his promised crackdown on immigration. But this morning, his efforts are already being challenged in court.
This next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
One of President Trump's executive orders will face its first legal test tomorrow. A judge in Seattle considering a temporary restraining order against Trump's directive ending birthright citizenship, which is protected under the 14th Amendment, and declares that any person born on U.S. soil is an American citizen. 22 states from Connecticut to California have now filed lawsuits to block the move, estimating that some 150,000 children will be here, born disenfranchised.
I have one message for President Trump. I'll see you in court.
Trump has promised historic mass deportations, his administration revoking a policy that barred arrests in sensitive areas like schools and churches.
They're pretty scared. Lots of questions about, are they safe here at school? Are they safe riding a school bus? Can they be just walking down the street and picked up? Lots and lots of fear.
Denver schools are now instructing staff on what steps to take if they're contacted by agents about a student. And at Washington's National Cathedral yesterday, with Trump there in the pews, Mary Ann Buddy, the Bishop of Washington, confronting him on his immigration crackdown.
The people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors.
Making a plea to the president.
I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away. And that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution.
Mexicano, mexicano.
To find compassion.
Vas a ser deportado.
Listen to this speech. It's actually pretty good. Like, I mean, it's not the intended target of the message is not going to reach that target, obviously. But it's actually pretty good. It's not like, it's not like lip shit or whatever. It's actually pretty solid. And we'll cover that in a second. Hold on.
Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger. For we were all once strangers in this land.
But that didn't sit well with the president, overnight calling the bishop a radical left hardline Trump hater, saying her statements were inappropriate. And the president continues to dismantle.
Yeah. Fake Christians, when they see an actual Christian push for, Christianity. Like, dude, American Christians, when they actually face a real Christian message, go, oh, what is this woke nonsense? Okay. Oh, what is this woke DEI commie nonsense? So that's what I'm going to talk about as well. Okay. I'm gonna get to that right now. So, a couple things took place here. Number one, I want to show you during the sermon. I want to show you Trump's and J.D. Vance's reactions.
I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families.
Come on, JD. I thought JD was a real Christian, a real born-again Catholic. What happened? You don't like it? You don't like it when someone is preaching to you about, like, some of the best tenets, some of the most consistently good tenets of religion, which is like, be kind to your neighbor, turn the other cheek, that sort of stuff. It's so funny, man. These guys hate quote-unquote Christians when you hear about some of the good stuff in religion. Immediately are like, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean, be kind to your neighbor? I'm sorry, love thy neighbor? Not on my watch, brother. I swear to God, if Jesus came back to earth, if Jesus Christ came back to earth and he was, like, unfortunately born in, like, Texas, okay, they would kill him with hammers, okay? The evangelicals would capture him
Nivel 57
with hammers, okay?
Completando el árbol de la vida.
Crucify this fucking asshole. What is this? What is this piece of shit talking about? Feeding the hungry and curing the lepers? Get the fuck out of here, dude. How about we don't do that? Okay? What is this woke commie nonsense you're talking about? Jesus? What is this woke Mexican style communism you're talking about, Jesus? Come over here, boy.
Some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash
La iglesia no puede estar defendiendo los LGTBQI.
may not be citizens.
They're so uncomfortable. They're like, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear about the humanity of the people that I have actively campaigned to kill, okay? I don't like this. I don't like this one bit.
Or have the proper documentation. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, Guadara, and temples.
So they hated that. And I love that Representative Mike Collins, okay, proudly serving Georgia 10, said the person giving this sermon should be added to the deportation list. Brother, that is so insane. Like what? How do you not realize you are a villain, man? Goddamn villain, dude. Like, what is going on? What is happening? This guy is talking about an American pastor giving a sermon on, you know, some of the decent tenets of Christianity. And this guy's like, I don't want to, what are you talking about? You should be killed. Jail or deportation for you immediately. Excuse me. It's psychotic. Yeah. Christians, when you tell them to love thy neighbor, actual Christian stuff. It's just so incredibly cooked, dude. It's so unimaginably cooked. Anyway, here's what Donald Trump said about the woke DEI pastor. And here's how, like, for the record, just understand, Mike Collins' take about deporting this person got 43,000 likes. Okay? And N. Wokeness' tweet celebrating Trump's insane ramblings of the pastor got 166,000 likes. The so-called bishop who spoke at the National Prayer Service on Tuesday morning was a radical left-wing hardline Trump hater. She brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. Now, a Republican president who hugs and kisses the Bible, okay, who won big with the evangelicals, talking about how this person brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. Dude, if churches were not allowed to be political, the Republican Party would never win an election ever again, okay? What are you talking about? Once again, it's the hypocrisy baiting doesn't work, okay? Because these guys are just straight up stating what they mean. They're saying it's only political if the church is actually abiding by religious doctrine and telling you to love thy neighbor, okay? That's political. If the church If the evangelical church sermon revolves around killing trans people, okay, and then, you know, voting for our God, King, Savior, Donald Trump, then that's not political. That's not political at all. That's not politics. That's good. That's the only type of politics that should be allowed. You understand? It is fucking insane to state this. Anyway, she was nasty in tone and not compelling or smart. She failed to mention the large number of illegal migrants that came into our country and killed people. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like, the expectation from Trump is, no, that's the only allowed sermon, okay? That's the only thing you're allowed to say in a sermon. How dare you not say that non-citizens were responsible for 29 murders in the fiscal year 2024. That's what he wants her to say. He is just straight up the Antichrist, dude. Straight up. Like, what was the expectation then?
Superstar
He just sits in church, and the pastor is like, I hate immigrants, man. I hate them. We need to deport them all. Thank you for our Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. God King Trump. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please kill all of the Guatemalans, please. Amen. The church has gone woke, folks. Many were deposited from jails and mental institutions. He's like, why is this woke pastor not just repeating a Trump rally, repeating some of my finest lies from the Trump rally? How dare this pastor actually go against me? This is some straight up monarch shit, dude. Like, this is history book stuff, okay? This is just literally the king being like, excuse me, I was ordained by God. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? This kind of speech is not allowed. It is a giant crime wave that has taken place in the USA. Apart from her inappropriate statements, the service was a very boring and uninspiring one. She is not very good at her job. She and her church owe the public an apology. And to cap it off, he. Yeah, and of course, predictably, people are just like, let's get one thing straight. This is not a minister of God, and her church, in air quotes, is not a Christian church. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, my Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. Fantastic stuff from Donald Trump. And also fantastic stuff from Representative Mike Collins, who wants to deport this person, who apparently was born in the state of New Jersey. So I guess they're trying to deport her back to New Jersey. Anyway, here was her response on CNN.
And your tone there, so serious and genuine. You see him, he's stone-faced, he then looks down, but he's listening to every word you say. As you made that personal plea to him, what were you looking at him in that moment? What kind of response were you perhaps hoping for in that moment?
I was looking at the president because I was speaking directly to him. I was also, frankly, as you do in every sermon, speaking to everyone who was listening through that one-on-one conversation with the president, reminding us all that in the people that are frightened in our country, the two groups of people that I mentioned are our fellow human beings, and that they have been portrayed in all throughout the political campaign in the harshest of lights. That I wanted to counter as gently as I could with a reminder of their humanity and their place in our wider community. And I was speaking to the president because I felt that he has this moment now where he feels charged and empowered to do what he feels called to do. And I wanted to say, there is room for mercy. There's room for a broader compassion. We don't need to portray with a broad cloth in the harshest of terms some of the most vulnerable people in our society who are in fact our neighbors, our friends, our children, our friends' children, and so forth.
So you spoke, I like how you use the word gently, because it was gentle. I mean, it was intense and passionate, but yet it was gentle. It was not ugly or confrontational. Wouldn't expect it to be, but these are hard things to talk about in that context. You spoke obviously about undocumented.
Nothing pisses off conservative Christians more than like a real ass Christian, okay? Like a pastor, a bishop that abides by, the good things in the Bible. Nothing pisses them off. That's why they also hated Jimmy Carter too, right? Jimmy Carter as president did a whole bunch of awful stuff. But I have always maintained the position that like Jimmy Carter, I think, was spiritually a very frustrating person for a lot of evangelical Christians who hated the fact that he was doing the Christ-like shit, the stuff that you're supposed to do if you're a Christian, build houses, help feed the hungry. Like, it's just so frustrating to them. It's kind of like the way the Democratic Party despises the likes of Bernie Sanders, because like Bernie Sanders shows the rest of the population of Democratic voters like how you could be a competent and progressive leader. They hate that. They're like, whoa, you're not supposed to actually want to walk the walk. You're supposed to just talk the talk, and then do nothing. It's the same thing. It's just like kind of exposes them as the frauds that they are, so they just despise it. They hate that. They absolutely despise a Christian person who actually abides by the good standards set forth in religious doctrine. Okay?
Migrants, also the LGBT community, the two communities you're talking about. I wanted to play a little bit more of what you said, and also, again, the president's reaction at that moment.
There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. The vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away.
What made you decide to say all that today?
Well, these are the people that I know. These are not abstract people for me. These are actual people that I know. So I wanted to speak on their behalf. I wanted to present a vision of what unity can look like in this country that is transcending of differences and viewpoints and acknowledging our common humanity. I wanted to speak in such a way that reflected that dignity and respect, but I also wanted...
Disgusting, woke nonsense. How dare you? Christianity is supposed to be about killing thy neighbor if I suspect thy neighbor of being Guatemalan, okay? That's what Christianity is about. Excuse me, what the hell are you talking about? Evangelical Christians operate in the exact way that Reddit atheists claim Christians are like all the time. They operate in the cartoonishly evil, villainous ways in which Reddit atheists, like militant atheists, depict them as. All the time, like all day, every day. They're like, whoa, what do you mean? What do you mean about love thy neighbor? How dare you? I'm not loving anybody except for Donald Trump, my Lord and Savior. Fuck you.
To bring into that space the real humanity of the people. Of
American Christianity is satanic. It's prosperity gospel is such an obvious satanic interpretation of Christianity. It is hilarious to me, okay? It is like the most evil thing that masquerades as being godly. It is crazy. And it's the most popular form of Christianity in America. It is nutty to me. What do you mean a rich man has the same likelihood of getting into heaven that a camel does through the eye of a needle? That's stupid gay shit. That's woke DEI. Sounds like Marxism to me. Fuck you! How dare you say shit like that? Heaven is woke now. Anyway.
That I was referencing.
What is this? This is funny. Coming from a Christian household, we went to the same church my whole life. When I turned 18, my pastor gave a positive stance on abortion and started a clinic to aid immigrants in southern Arizona, and my family left the church. That's amazing. Nope. They just nope. They pieced out of God, dude. Hassan, Republican coming out today? What do you mean? Yeah. The house of God has gone woke, folks. We need to put an end to this nonsense, okay? New. The liberal activist, by the way, here's Colin Rugg. The liberal activist bishop who told Trump to show mercy to LGBT kids says she called out the president because it was her responsibility to counter him. Your responsibility is not to turn a sermon into a political debate. Wait, what? Dude, these people have not gone to any churches, right? Because I've been inside of churches, okay? I've been inside of churches. Let me tell you, there is not a single church that does not engage in political commentary. It's either political commentary like this one, okay? And there are plenty of wonderful churches that do this, okay? Or if you go to like or if you want to hear infinitely more radical commentary, go to a black church, specifically African Methodist Church. The African Methodist Church I went to in LA was like all about how, you know, all about fuck the government. Any church that presents liberation and preaches liberation theology will obviously always have some incredibly radical and awesome takes as well. Jeremiah Wright comes to mind. But the rest of the churches, the overwhelming majority of churches, as a matter of fact, in the United States of America, are unimaginably right-wing and incredibly political. There's so many MAGA pastors. One of them that was at the inauguration even did a rug pull. She was given a great honor today, a chance to unify America around a Christian message at the dawn of a new administration. Instead, she disgraced herself with a lecture you'd hear on CNN or an episode of The View. What an embarrassment. Dude, they can't understand that that is a unifying Christian message. Like, it does not read in the same vein for them. They're so bludgeoned in the head, both literally and figuratively, with right-wing reactionary propaganda that, like, a person saying it's godly and Christian-like to love thy neighbor is seen as a woke message that has no place in the church. It's the fucking Bible! That's in the Bible! God damn America! That's in the Bible! Oh my God! I'm losing my mind! Here, all right, well.
Where governments lie, God does not lie. Where governments change, God does not change. And I'm through now. But let me leave you with one more thing. Governments fail. The government in this text, comprised of Caesar, Quirinius, Pontius Pilate, Pontius Pilate. The Roman government failed. The British government used to rule from east to west. The British government had a Union Jack. She colonized Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, and Hong Kong. Her navies ruled the 7 seas all the way down to the tip of Argentina in the Falklands. But the British government failed. The Russian government failed. The Japanese government failed. The German government failed. And the United States of America government, when it came to treating her citizens of Indian descent fairly, she failed. She put them on reservations. When it came to treating her citizens of Japanese descent fairly, she failed. She put them in internment prison camps. When it came to treating the citizens of African descent fairly, America failed. She put them in chains. The government put them on slave quarters, put them on auction blocks, put them in cotton fields, put them in inferior schools, put them in substandard housing, put them in scientific experiments, put them in the lowest paying jobs, put them outside the equal protection of the law, kept them out of their racist bastions of higher education, and locked them into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America? No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating our citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she is trying to act like she is God and she is supreme.
I love that. It's one of my favorite takes of all time. Straight up. That was Obama's pastor, by the way. And because of that, obviously the Republicans immediately went after Obama and were like, Obama is the Antichrist who hates America, all this stuff. And Obama had to, of course, no longer associate himself with Jeremiah Wright, and he canceled him. And of course, this is the Boondocks, famous Boondocks clip.
America, daddy! America can eat a dick! America can lick the balls!
This is hilarious. No notes, you know? Not even paraphrasing. I mean, basically the same exact one. Basically the same exact thing he said. Anyway, so yeah, that's the case right there. All right, so the notion that obviously these guys or churches are supposed to be apolitical is a very funny one coming from the Republican Party. But of course, as is the case with reactionary dipshits, all the way from the silliness that comes from the wokeness ruined video game right-wing political commentators, all the way to the top of the party ticket, the president. Politics is when woke. Politics is not when right-wing politics is happening. That's normal. That's common sense. Okay? That's why video games like Call of Duty are not political. But video games where there's a woman in it are political. Okay? Just remember that. Let's hear what the Fox News, Fox and Friends has to say about this woke, gay-ass bishop.
Yesterday, the presidential party and members of Congress and whatnot, the hoi polloi of Washington for the most part, went up to Washington's National Cathedral for a national prayer event. And there at the lectern was Bishop Marianne Edgar Bood, and she gave a sermon that, it's described as a sermon, but really it was a lecture where she told the new president, go easy on migrants and refugees and members of the LGBTQ community. If you missed it, it's gotten a lot of support in some quarters and a lot of criticism. Here she is.
I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who feel...
Dude, JD Vance's face here is so gross. He's like, oh, I can't believe I'm getting lectured at a sermon. What are you, a preacher? What am I, sitting in a church pew? What is this, a sermon? What the hell's going on here? Oh, that's awesome. I know I didn't cover this yesterday, but it is so funny how angry this got Republicans, dude. And how angry they got in the funniest ways possible.
For their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
Oh my God! It's always good to learn. What was that, John, or was that Paul?
I don't know. She didn't go through scripture. Okay,
right.
And she gave a political speech.
Absolutely.
And as someone that comes from generations of preachers, I would have walked out. I commend the president for being graceful, but I'm JD Vance. I'm looking crazy. Like, what is she talking about during a sermon? I don't think it was appropriate time. If you had something to say to the president that may be a little political, if you wanted to talk about the president exercising mercy, then you could have asked for the president for a few minutes of his time. It's a
Dude, this is amazing. Dude, yeah, wait till they find out about this gay ass Jesus guy, okay? Fucking lame ass, communist ass, brown dude who was, you know, preaching very similar things, doing very similar things, you know? Wait till you get a load of this Jesus dude, bro. He will be pissed, okay? What are they? I don't understand. Like, do they just rewrite the Bible in evangelical churches? Like, what's going on? I actually don't. I legitimately don't know, because I don't really, I'm not a very religious person in general, and I obviously am not Christian either. Is it just like made up stuff? Like, what's happening? You open the Donald Trump Bible at your the Southern Baptist Church, and in it is like, you should actually kill poor people, and to be rich is to be glorious. Deng Xiaoping. Is that what's going on? Like, there's just no takeaway. There's no positive takeaways from their Bible, I guess. I mean, there's like hundreds of different versions, so yeah. I mean, I know, but like, the basic tenets are supposed to still be there. Love thy neighbor is a basic tenet, okay? It is a basic tenet. It's not like an advanced level Bible course. That's like Bible 101, right? That's Christianity 101. If you couldn't figure that out, I don't know what to tell you. Like, what are you looking at? What the fuck are you reading? Are you reading at all? You probably don't know how to read because you were homeschooled, I assume. But like, this is not like really difficult to comprehend stuff. This is not difficult. This is just like super simple stuff, okay? Leviticus 19:34, when a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong, unless he ain't from around here, in parentheses. The stranger who sojourns with you shall be to you as the native among you, on a reserve far away, in parentheses. You shall love him as yourself. If you are a gay live unless you are a gay live who hates freedom, or in which case you shouldn't. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt, which was, in parentheses, which was filled with rapists and illegals.